The veil in the temple didn't start with Moses. It didn't start at Sinai. It didn't even start with Israel. It started in a garden with one broken command and one man barred from the presence of God. And here is what nobody tells you: the cherubim that guarded the garden and the cherubim woven into the temple veil are the same guard, the same barrier, replayed across thousands of years of history. Stay right there, because today we are going all the way back to the beginning. Welcome back to Bible Prophecy. Are we in the end times? In episodes 1 and 2, we established that Daniel and Jesus were describing the same first century event, the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. And we showed that the Greek word egizo, near, soon, imminent, makes it impossible to push those events into our future. Today we go where most prophecy teachers never go. We are going back to Genesis, because you cannot understand the veil, you cannot understand the temple, you cannot understand what Jesus accomplished on the cross until you understand what happened in a garden thousands of years before Moses ever climbed a mountain. By the end of this episode, you are going to see one single unbroken story, from Genesis 3 all the way to 70 AD, that will permanently change the way you read your entire Bible. Let's go. Open your Bible to Genesis 3:24. This is one of the most overlooked verses in the entire scripture. After Adam breaks the one command he was given, God does something that sets the entire trajectory of the rest of the Bible. He drove the man out and placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. Now most people read that and think, okay, Adam got kicked out of the garden, and they move on, but stop, look at what is actually happening here. Adam is not just being relocated, he is being barred, cut off, exiled from access. The way to the tree of life, the source of God's life and presence, is now blocked, guarded, inaccessible. And what is guarding it? Cherubim, with a flaming sword. That barrier, right there in Genesis 3, is the first veil in the Bible. Not Moses' veil, not the temple curtain. This one, in a garden, before there was ever a tabernacle or a priesthood or a sacrificial system. And the condition it represents is not just a physical exile from a geographical location. Paul tells us in Ephesians 2:1, dead in trespasses and sins while still walking around. Colossians 2:13, dead in sins while physically alive. This death is not a heartbeat stopping, it is exile, separation from the life of God. The condition Adam entered the moment he ate the fruit and was driven from the garden. And that condition, that exile, that barrier, did not end in Genesis 3. It just changed forms. Now Paul lays out exactly how that barrier worked and what it did to the entire human race. And what he shows us in Romans 5 is one of the clearest and most devastating chains of logic in the entire New Testament. Here it is. Romans 5:12. Sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin. And in this way, death spread to all people. The chain is simple: command, broken command, sin, condemnation, death. And then Paul goes even deeper in verse 16. He says, the judgment followed one sin and brought condemnation. Now look at the Greek words Paul uses here, because they are precise and deliberate. The word translated judgment is Krima, which refers not just to a verdict being rendered, but to the result of that judgment, the consequence, the outcome, the verdict landing with full weight. And the word translated condemnation is Katakrima, which means the exact sentence handed down, not a general feeling of guilt, not a vague sense of wrongness. The precise, specific, legally established sentence, the exact guilt determined, the exact punishment decreed. Think about what Paul is saying. One broken command in a garden, and the result was not just a feeling of shame. The knowledge of good and evil was activated, and with it, their own conscience. For the first time, Adam and Eve knew they had transgressed. Their conscience condemned them from within. They hid from God. They could not face his presence. And here is the crucial point most people miss. It was not God withdrawing from them that brought death. It was their conscience condemning them, blinding them, cutting them off from the very life of God that had sustained them. That is the Krima, the result of the judgment landing. Not a legal verdict from outside, but an internal condemnation, a darkening of the mind, a separation from the life of God. And that Katakrima, that exact sentence, was not just Adam's experience. Paul says it spread to all of humanity, because every person born after Adam inherited the same condition, a conscience that condemns, a mind darkened, separated from the life of God. This is what Ephesians 4:18 describes: darkened in their understanding, separated from the life of God, because of the hardening of their hearts. The exile was not just geographical, it was internal, cut off from the life of God, blinded from seeing Him, condemned from within. This is covenantal legal language. Command, broken command, conscience condemns, blinded from the life of God, death. The same mechanism that would later be formalized at Sinai. And then Paul adds something in verses 13 and 14 that most people skip right past. Death reigned from Adam to Moses, even over those who did not sin by breaking a command, as did Adam. Death reigned from Adam to Moses, before there was ever a written law, before Sinai, before the 10 Commandments. The exile condition, the separation from God's life, was already spreading across all of humanity. Because what came at Moses was not a new problem starting. It was the same mechanism, formalized. Command to break it. Conscience condemns, death. Different covenant, same shape. And here is where it gets really interesting. Paul says in Romans 7:9, when the commandment came, sin sprang to life and I died. He is not describing a biological experience. He is describing the same exile condition that Adam entered in Genesis 3, now activated through the law. The law did not create the problem. It formalized it. It made the verdict official. It established the Katakrima with legal precision. And this is exactly what Paul means in Galatians 3:19 when he says, "The law was added because of transgression, until the seed to whom the promise referred would come." Did you catch that last phrase? Until the seed would come. The law was never the destination. It was always temporary, always pointing forward, always counting down to one specific person, one specific seed, the Messiah, Jesus Christ. The law had an expiry date built into it from the moment it was given at Sinai. It was added temporarily because of transgression until the seed came. And the seed came. The Katakrima, the exact sentence, it was taken by Christ on the cross, and the temporary guardian, the law, fulfilled its purpose and was done. And 2 Corinthians 3, Paul calls the law the ministry of death. And in Romans 8, the law of sin and death. Not because the law was evil, but because it activated the exact sentence that the exile condition produced. Same barrier as Eden, formalized at Sinai, temporary by design, pointing always to the seed. Now here is something hidden in plain sight that almost nobody ever points out, and it completely changes how you read Genesis 2 and 3. The name of the tree itself, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, is not random wording. It is legal language used consistently throughout the Old Testament. Deuteronomy 1:39 uses the phrase for moral accountability, distinguishing between those who are accountable for their choices and those who are not yet. 1 Kings 3 verse 9, Solomon asking God for wisdom to discern between good and evil, in the direct context of judging a nation, rendering verdicts, making legal determinations. 2 Samuel 14:17, the same phrase, same judicial weight. The ability to know good and evil is the ability to judge. So the tree in the garden was not just fruit. It was the mechanism that made command and verdict possible in the first place. Eat from it, and you have activated judgment. You now know good and evil. You now stand under verdict. Command, transgression, verdict, death. And this is why Paul says the law was added because of transgression, not invented because of it. The mechanism already existed from the garden. Sinai formalized what Eden had already established. The micro takeaway here is profound. The entire Old Testament legal system, the sacrifices, the priesthood, the Day of Atonement, was not God inventing a new problem. It was God providing a temporary framework to manage a problem that had existed since Genesis 3, until the permanent answer could come. Now here is the connection that is going to change the way you read the entire Old Testament. This is what most Bible teachers never show you. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. When Israel gets the tabernacle, and later the temple, and God dwells behind a veil, with only the high priest allowed in once a year, never without blood. That is not a new problem starting. That is Eden's condition, replayed at a national scale. Think about the parallels. In the garden, Adam, barred from the tree of life by cherubim with a flaming sword. In the tabernacle, Israel barred from the presence of God by a veil woven with images of cherubim on it. Same guardians, same barrier, same condition. Exodus 26:31 describes the veil of the tabernacle, made of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, with cherubim worked into it by a skilled craftsman. The same cherubim that stood at the entrance of Eden, now woven into the fabric that separates Israel from God's presence in the most holy place. God is telling a story through the architecture of the tabernacle. This is not a new arrangement. This is Eden replicated in fabric and wood and gold, telling the same story every single day. We are barred. We are exiled. We cannot approach the presence of God on our own. And the high priest going in once a year with blood was not a solution. It was an annual reminder that the exile condition was still in effect. The cherubim were still on guard. The way to the tree of life was still blocked. Eden's condition was still in effect. The garden was still closed. The barrier was still standing. Until one moment changed everything. Now we come to the most explosive verse in this entire study, and I need you to read it slowly, because most people read right past the most important detail. Hebrews 10:19-20. We have confidence to enter the most holy place by the blood of Jesus, by a new and living way opened for us through the curtain, that is his body. The curtain, that is his body. The writer of Hebrews identifies Christ's own body as the veil itself. But here is what we need to understand carefully. Jesus did not become the barrier because he deserved it. He took it upon himself voluntarily. He stepped into the place of the barrier. He became what stood between us and judgment, so that when his body was torn, the way through was opened. Paul explains exactly how in 2 Corinthians 5:21, God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that we might become the righteousness of God. He had no sin. He was not the barrier by nature. He became it by taking upon himself everything that stood between humanity and God. And Galatians 3:13 makes it even more explicit. Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us, for it is written, "Cursed is everyone who is hung on a tree." He became the curse. He took the consequence of the broken command upon himself. He stepped into the place of Adam's exile, voluntarily, and bore it in his own body on the cross. So when that body was torn on the cross, it was not just fulfilling a Mosaic requirement. It was not just satisfying a legal penalty under the Sinai covenant. It was undoing Eden, the curse that came through Adam's broken command, taken by Christ. The exile that spread from Genesis 3, reversed by the cross. The cherubim's flaming sword, answered. The temple's veil, torn. The barrier between man and God, removed. All of it, answered in one moment, by one body, that voluntarily became the curse, so that we could become the righteousness of God. Matthew 27:51 records it happening in real time. The moment Jesus breathes his last breath, the curtain of the temple is torn in two, from top to bottom, not from bottom to top. From top to bottom, God tearing it. From his side, the barrier removed from the divine side, not the human side. The way to the tree of life is open again. The cherubim have stood down. The exile is over. Not for the high priest once a year, for everyone, always, forever. Now Paul takes everything we have just seen and wraps it in one of the most remarkable allegories in all of his letters, and his conclusion is as bold and uncompromising as anything he ever wrote. Here it is. In Galatians 4:22-31, Paul takes the story of Abraham's two sons, Ishmael, born of Hagar, the slave woman, Isaac, born of Sarah, the free woman, and he says these two women represent two covenants. Hagar represents the old covenant, Mount Sinai, the law, slavery, the present city of Jerusalem, in bondage with her children. Sarah represents the new covenant, the Jerusalem above, the free woman, the mother of all who believe. Now stop and feel the weight of what Paul just said. He literally calls the Jerusalem of his day the city of the temple, the city of the veil, the city of the sacrificial system, a city in bondage, in slavery. The Old Covenant, Eden's barrier replayed at Sinai, replayed in the Tabernacle, replayed in the temple, was a system of slavery. Not because God intended it to enslave, but because it was always a temporary guardian, managing the exile condition until the permanent answer came. And then Paul quotes Isaiah, "Get rid of the slave woman and her son, for the slave woman's son will never share in the inheritance with the free woman's son." The Old Covenant had to go, not because it was evil, because it had served its purpose. The signpost had brought us to the destination. The guardian was no longer needed. And 70 AD was the moment the slave woman and her son were finally and permanently removed. The temple, gone. The sacrificial system, ended. The veil, literally burned to ash. The Old Covenant order, finished. Every last physical remnant of Eden's barrier removed from the earth. Not with Moses, not with the cross alone. The cross ended it spiritually. 70 AD ended it physically and historically. Let me bring the whole story together. Genesis 3, Adam breaks the command, exiled from God's presence. Cherubim guard the way, the first veil. Romans 5, death reigned from Adam to Moses, the exile condition spreading to all of humanity. Sinai, the law formalizes the same mechanism, the ministry of death, the law of sin and death. The tabernacle and temple, Eden replicated. Cherubim on the veil, the most holy place inaccessible, only one man, once a year, could enter. The cross, Christ's body torn, the veil torn, the cherubim's sword answered, the exile ended, the way to the tree of life open. Hebrews 8, the old covenant obsolete, soon to disappear. 70 AD, the temple destroyed, the sacrificial system ended, the physical remnant of the old covenant gone forever, the veil burned to ash. One story, one barrier, one answer. From the garden to the cross to 70 AD, God was doing one thing, removing the barrier, ending the exile, opening the way back to his presence, forever. The veil started in a garden, and it ended on a cross, and 70 AD was God's final confirmation that it was never coming back. If this episode has shown you something you have never seen before, please share it with someone. Most people sit in church for 20 years and never hear the connection between the garden and the temple and the cross. Send this video to someone who needs to see it. Subscribe to Bible Prophecy, Are We in the End Times? Because this series keeps going deeper with every single episode. And in episode 4, we are going to follow that veil all the way to its final destruction. We are going to show you from 2 Corinthians, Hebrews, Romans, and 1 Corinthians 15 exactly what the removal of the veil accomplished, and what Paul means when he says, death has been swallowed up in victory. Because it is not talking about what most people think. Episode 4 is coming. Do not miss it. God bless you. See you in the next one.